Yo, what up, Street Dogs? There, can't ride the thought. Treating life like it was one big play, and to just be more playful and have more fun in life. So this is the thought. Why is it that adults are just way too serious and take life too seriously and take everything too seriously? Nietzsche came across this idea that essentially the Greeks, ancient Greeks, who we could consider the highest form of culture or civilization thus far, they were essentially like overgrown children. And even if you read the Iliad and seeing the pettiness and the fights, they're essentially just like acting like a bunch of big kids. But in that sense, there's a form of kind of authenticity, I think, which comes from their childlike demeanor and playing. And I don't know, I think that perhaps the primal nature of being human is to be kind of more childlike, where we like to play, we like to explore, we like to tinker, we like to fidget, we like to make stuff, and we're so insanely creative. So if you want to feel more creative, the best thing is play with your grandkids, play with your kids, play with someone else's kids, whatever it may be. They are just so creative. It's so fun. Like, for example, my friend Tim played with his grandkids, Zania, who's 7, and Anave, who's 6, and they're just like, hey, let's create a fort, and they created a pillow fort in like 2 seconds. And I'm like, man, when I was a kid, I used to love making pillow forts, or you get a cardboard box and you turn to a spaceship or whatever. And maybe then it shows that we humans, we have this instinct or natural desire to create shelters, which is interesting. And the thing that also is so funny is that, like, me as an adult, like, I get so tired, it's like, oh fuck, I need a cup of coffee, whatever. Yet kids, they could play from sunrise to sundown, zero exhaustion. And I was always curious on, how could I energy vampire out these kids? And I think what it is when kids are playing, that's when they're the most creative. That's when they're the most innovative. And even like I was reading Steve Jobs' biography by Walter Isaacson. Steve Jobs was like essentially like a really big kid. Like, he'd throw temper tantrums and he wanted like his way or the highway. So he was kind of like a child tyrant creator. But because Steve Jobs was so stubborn, he was able to create Apple what it is today, like a really great company. Whereas other companies, which tend to be run by suits, they stop their innovative curiosities and stuff like that, and they're only about maximizing shareholder values. And this is where, especially since Jony Ive just pieced out of the company, either he got pushed out or he decided to leave on his own accord. There's, I don't know, it's kind of sad. Like, I look at Apple and I love Apple and stuff like that, but it looks like there's really no more true innovators left at Apple. I mean, no, I can't say that. What I mean to say is, I don't know, I just kind of get the vibes that Apple is probably going to become the next Microsoft. Like, it still does have the creative spirit and stuff like that, yet, I don't know, I go to the Apple leadership page, I don't know, it just looks like a bunch of like logistics management, people who just want to increase the Apple's stock shares. And like Tim Cook, hats off to him, he certainly did steer Apple into becoming a $2 trillion company. But then maybe the question is that the ultimate aim of life, to just make companies more valuable and maximize profits? Otherwise you just have much more Microsofts in the world, because like even Apple, when it was still run by Steve Jobs, certainly Microsoft was the more like money-wise valuable company, and now Apple kind of rules the globe. And I don't know, it just, my pragmatic thought is, I think life is far more than just profit maximization. Like, I'd rather create a very meaningful company or something, or legacy that I'm certainly not the richest man in the graveyard, nor did I create the company which had the highest amount of revenue, but yeah, created something that was super duper dope and could maybe persist indefinitely. So, you know, yeah, because I do think if you make money, you're a god value. Because you read all these I've read all these ancient stories of all these kings in the past who had like 10 quadrillion crates of gold. No one remembers who these kings are, and no one really cares who these kings are. And it seems actually much more meaningful and interesting is, you know, these philosophers or artists or poets who are so incredibly stubborn in which they're doing. They didn't compromise their values for nothing. And as a consequence, their artwork, their thoughts and stuff like that have persisted until today. So yeah, the thought is, don't make the purpose of your life about money acquisition. Like you think about kids. Kids have zero interest in money. They only see money as interesting as like as a means to buy toys. But then again, I'm starting to think this notion of buying toys is just like, it's a really bad thing that parents have done to kids. Like, you know, it's, oh, I'll just, you know, buy this toy for you, X, Y, and Z. Like, I think kids, they're actually happier when they make their own toys or they just play amongst themselves. You don't need to buy kid toys. Like even for me as a kid growing up, you know, since I was also pretty poor, we didn't really have many toys. And I think I was actually legitimately happier then, because if you give a kid a toy, you're preventing him or her from being creative on his or her own and creating their own toys. And so in that way, the best way to raise kids, I think, is to just like let them, like give them nothing and let them be creative on their own. It's also kind of like when companies are given too much money, they soon lose that scrappiness mentality and they fail to truly innovate. I really do think that the best innovations do happen from kind of scrappiness, from need, and true innovation happens when you have a creative constraint where you don't have unlimited options and you don't have unlimited monies, and you use that opportunity to, you know, find a new novel way to approach things in a certain way. It seems like a much more interesting way to approach life. So yeah, maybe in life, let us strive to approach life in such a way where we let our inner child out, we let our inner innovator out, where we don't just do X, Y, and Z for basic reasons, but we truly do it for autotelic reasons, meaning doing things for the sake in itself. Don't let others superimpose their desires, needs, wants, and values upon you. You steer the ship.